Smoke curled into the gallery like a sinister ribbon, choking the light and turning the air viscous. I froze, inhaling shallowly, my lungs burning as I realized the fire wasn't just around me, it was the mirror of my life with Tobias. Every brushstroke, every meticulously curated exhibit had been a distraction from the rot beneath. I staggered toward the emergency exit, coughing violently. My heels clacked against the polished floor, echoing like a warning. The heat was searing, and the smoke made it nearly impossible to see, but one thing was clear. I had survived, but my life, my judgment, my trust in others had not. I realized, in that split second of terror, that beauty alone was not enough to shield me from deception. I burst out into the courtyard, gasping for air. The fire trucks were arriving, sirens blaring, but I barely noticed them. I was consumed with the thought of Tobias, the man I had trusted implicitly. His calm demeanor, his practiced smiles, they were a facade. And somewhere, in this web of beauty and betrayal, I had overlooked the obvious. Back in the relative safety of the street, I pulled out my laptop. The foundation software flashed a notification I had ignored countless times, a minor system alert flagged by the automated security audit. Usually, I dismissed it as a routine glitch. But today, my rebirth demanded curiosity, vigilance. I opened the interface, fingers trembling, and discovered a hidden folder, deeply encrypted, labeled cryptically, Subledger. I hesitated, the fire's adrenaline still coursing through me. Something inside me, clarity I had never known, urged me to explore. I bypassed the encryption, my pulse pounding. The folder opened, revealing rows of figures and coded entries that made my stomach twist. Each entry was deliberate, calculated, and pointed unmistakably toward deception. Tobias had been manipulating the Foundation's financials, exploiting the very legacy I had sworn to protect. This can't be real, I whispered to myself, staring at the screen. But every number, every timestamp confirmed it. Betrayal on a scale I had never imagined. And I realized something crucial. Fear had saved me, yes, but it had also awakened me. I could no longer ignore the cracks in the beautiful facade. The fire hadn't just destroyed part of the gallery, it had ignited a new resolve in me. I would see this through no matter the cost. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt alive, not just physically, but morally, intellectually. I was reborn. The morning after the fire, the gallery smelled faintly of smoke and charred varnish. I walked among the scorched remains of the exhibits, each piece a reminder that appearances could be deceiving. But my focus wasn't on the art today, it was on the numbers. The hidden folder I had discovered burned in my mind like a warning flare. I needed to understand how deep Tobias's deception went. I sat at my office desk, fingers hovering over the keyboard, heart racing. Opening the subledger again, I traced the entries line by line. At first, they seemed innocuous, small adjustments here, a rounded number there. But patterns emerged quickly, sinister in their precision. Donations were inflated, appraisal values tripled, and funds meant for charitable programs quietly redirected. My stomach churned. This was no oversight. This was deliberate, systematic, and personal. I muttered aloud. Tobias, how could you think I wouldn't notice? The words tasted bitter on my tongue. The man I had loved, trusted, and respected was nothing more than a fraud. And worse, he had used my name, my authority, and my reputation to make it stick. My phone buzzed. It was a message from one of the gallery staff. Everything okay after the fire? I typed back mechanically, but my mind was elsewhere. I had to confirm everything before confronting him. Opening another layer of the subledger, I discovered something even more chilling, a series of transactions linked directly to Anya, Tobias's meticulous accountant. Each entry was labeled with precise tax dates, routing funds out of the Foundation into private accounts. Anya's cold, deliberate handwriting in the digital logs told a story I didn't want to read. They had been embezzling for years. I leaned back in my chair, eyes closing for a moment. So all those late nights, those excuses, the endless explanations, it was all a show. I whispered to myself. Rage, shock, and betrayal mingled inside me like a volatile chemical. And then clarity hit. I wasn't powerless. I had the evidence right here. I could expose them. My pulse steadied, my mind sharpened. Fear had awakened me, yes, but now purpose replaced panic. I would need help, a specialist who could navigate this without letting Tobias slip away. As I saved copies of the files to a secure drive, a single thought echoed in my mind. This isn't just about catching them. It's about reclaiming my life, my legacy, my integrity. I stood, straightened my shoulders, and whispered, "Time to bring in the expert." The ledger wasn't just numbers on a screen anymore. It was a map of betrayal. Each entry I opened made my stomach twist, a combination of disbelief and fury rising with every click. Tobias and Anya had turned the very foundation I loved into their personal cash cow. I stared at the inflated appraisals, jaw tight. One painting, a modest early 20th century piece, had been valued at over $1 million, more than 10 times its real worth. My own records confirmed it. And the funds meant for educational programs, for scholarships, for maintaining the gallery, quietly siphoned into Tobias's private accounts. I whispered to myself, "You used my trust, my authority, my name." The words trembled on my lips, a mixture of anger and sorrow. How had I missed it for so long? Or worse, had I been too trusting, too naive? Then I noticed a pattern. Every overvaluation coincided with a donation routed through Anya's account. Each transfer was meticulously timed, leaving no trace that could be casually discovered. This wasn't sloppy accounting, it was an art form. And in their hands, it was criminal. I leaned closer to the screen, scrolling through the transaction logs, finding emails and notes that detailed every manipulation. Tobias and Anya had calculated the exact tax credits they could claim, maximizing their personal gain while leaving the foundation stripped of resources. My chest tightened. This was not just theft. It was a calculated assault on everything I had built, on the legacy my family had entrusted to me. I grabbed my phone and called my assistant. "Keep this confidential," I said firmly, forcing calm into my voice. "No one can know what I've found yet. I need copies, secure backups, everything documented." After hanging up, I paced the office, mind racing. How could someone I loved be capable of this? The betrayal cut deeper than I expected, more than the fire had. I had survived flames, yes, but surviving deception? That would be a different kind of endurance test. I finally sat down, determination hardening like steel in my veins. I needed an expert, someone who could validate the evidence and help me navigate this legally. Someone who would take Tobias and Anya seriously, who wouldn't be intimidated by their power or influence. I whispered to the empty room, a vow to myself, "You will pay. And I will make sure no one ever manipulates my family's name or trust again." Then I saved the encrypted copies of the evidence and typed a secure message to Rex Thorne, my mentor and financial fraud specialist. His reputation preceded him, and right now I needed every bit of expertise he could offer. The fire in me had been rekindled. This wasn't just about numbers anymore, it was about justice, legacy, and reclaiming control of my life. I could feel my pulse in my temples as I waited for Rex's call. The subledger, the inflated appraisals, the meticulous manipulation, it all felt heavier when held alone. But with Rex, I had someone who could turn this chaos into action. When his voice finally came through the line, calm and measured, I felt a surge of relief. "Serena, I've reviewed everything you sent," he said. "This isn't just fraud, it's systematic. They've been laundering the foundation's assets under the guise of philanthropy. You did the right thing by documenting everything." I exhaled, tension loosening slightly. Rex, I trusted him. I trusted Tobias. And Anya, she was supposed to help us maintain transparency. How could they be so meticulous? Rex paused. "That's why we'll be meticulous too. We can't rush this. We have to expose them without giving them a chance to hide or destroy evidence. Step 1. A formal report to the IRS and state regulators. Step 2. Ensure all foundation assets are secured under your control." I nodded, though he couldn't see me. Step 1, Step 2, yes. We'll do it properly. No shortcuts. My voice carried a new firmness. This wasn't just about money, it was about legacy, about the trust of donors, about my family's name. Over the next few days, Rex guided me through every action. We created a secure digital backup of the ledger, filed formal complaints, and prepared a timeline of events demonstrating Tobias and Anya's deliberate scheme. Each step I took alongside him reminded me how much I valued his expertise and how much I relied on his calm logic to navigate the storm. At one point, we met in his office to review the final presentation for regulators. Rex leaned back, eyes scanning the documents. Serena, you've done more than uncover a crime. You've restored integrity to your foundation. This is extraordinary. I felt a warmth I hadn't allowed myself to acknowledge before. I couldn't have done it without you, Rex. Honestly, I don't think I could have faced this alone. He met my gaze, and for a moment, the professional boundary felt like it blurred. There was gratitude, yes, but something more, something quieter, powerful, unspoken. When the regulatory board formally acknowledged our evidence and Tobias and Anya's wrongdoing was confirmed, I felt a strange mixture of vindication and relief. The foundation was safe, my family's legacy intact, and justice served. As we left the building, Rex brushed an errant strand of hair from my face. "You were brilliant, Serena," he said softly. And in that brief moment, I felt a spark between us, a silent acknowledgement that our partnership might be shifting, that something new, real, and honest could grow from the ashes of deception. I smiled, heart quickening, realizing that I was not just reclaiming my foundation, I was beginning to reclaim my life. The morning air felt sharper than usual as I stepped into the conference room where the foundation's board had gathered. Every face was tense, anxious, and I could feel their expectation pressing down on me. Today was the day Tobias and Anya would be exposed to the world, and I would be the one to lead it. Rex walked beside me, calm and steady, carrying the final dossier of evidence. I glanced at him, grateful for his presence. "You ready?" he asked quietly. I nodded, though my stomach churned with a mixture of nerves and excitement. I began my presentation, methodically walking the board through the hidden subledger, the inflated appraisals, and the carefully orchestrated diversion of funds. Every click of the projector, every slide of financial manipulation, felt like unearthing a buried grave. And yet, with each revelation, I could sense the board's shock, and slowly, their relief that someone had uncovered the truth. Rex's steady presence behind me was grounding. When I faltered slightly while explaining the complex transactions, he leaned in and whispered, "You've got this, Serena. Just keep it simple." And somehow, his voice gave me confidence I didn't know I had. By the time I reached the final slide, the room was silent. Tobias and Anya's actions were not only illegal, I said firmly, they were a betrayal of trust, of donors, of the Foundation's mission, and of my family's legacy. Thanks to meticulous documentation and oversight, we now have the proof to hold them accountable. The board chairman leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Serena, this is extraordinary. Your diligence and courage have saved this institution. We will proceed with legal action immediately." A wave of relief washed over me, but it wasn't until Rex placed a steady hand on my shoulder that I truly felt the weight lift. "You did this," he said softly. "Not me. You faced them, confronted the betrayal, and turned it around." I looked at him, and in that brief gaze, I saw not just pride but admiration, concern, and something warmer, something personal. My chest tightened as I realized how deeply I had relied on him, not just for expertise but for trust, for grounding, for connection. Later, as we walked out of the building together, Rex brushed a hand along my arm, and I didn't pull away. "You know," he murmured, "I've always believed in you. Today you proved why." I smiled, feeling my pulse quicken, realizing this victory wasn't just professional. It was personal. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt a spark of hope, for justice, for the Foundation, and for something entirely new between Rex and me. As we stepped into the sunlight, I thought to myself, The world knew the truth now. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to let myself feel it too. The foundation was quiet today, the kind of silence that comes after a storm has passed. After the public reckoning, everything felt different, lighter, clearer, but also strangely exposed. I had faced betrayal, deception, and corruption, but now I had Rex by my side, not just as a mentor or a consultant, but as someone I could lean on. We were in his office, poring over the remaining financial records, making sure every loophole was sealed and every asset secured. His methodical nature always balanced my own restless energy. "Serena, take a breath," he said gently as I pored over the spreadsheets. "We've done the heavy lifting. Now it's about fine-tuning." I looked up at him, noticing for the first time how attentive he always was, how he never rushed me, how he noticed the little things I didn't even say aloud. "I guess I've been holding so much in," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Not just about the foundation, but about trusting people. After Tobias, after Anya, my hands fidgeted with the corner of a file. Rex stepped closer, resting a hand lightly on my shoulder. "You don't have to carry it alone anymore," he said softly. "I've got your back. And not just with the foundation. With everything." His eyes held mine, and for the first time, I allowed myself to feel the weight of relief, and something more, something tender. I took a deep breath. "I don't know how to let myself trust again," I admitted. "It's easier to stay guarded, to control everything." "And yet," he murmured, "here you are, trusting me to help you finish this. That's already a start. And if you let it, I'll be here, patiently, constantly." Something in me shifted. All the tension I had carried, the anger, the fear, the skepticism, started to loosen. I realized that trust wasn't about being naive, it was about choosing someone worthy, someone who had proven their loyalty. Rex had done that, over and over, through patience, expertise, and integrity. We worked in silence for a few minutes, the comfortable kind, where no words were needed. Then, as he reached across the desk to hand me a finalized report, our fingers brushed. A small spark shot through me, unexpected and undeniable. I glanced up, meeting his gaze. "Rex," I started, unsure. He smiled, a soft, warm curve that made my heart stumble. "Serena," he said, voice low, "we've been through storms together. I'm not going anywhere." I smiled back, feeling an unfamiliar but welcome sense of safety. For the first time, I realized that healing wasn't just about fixing the foundation. It was about opening my heart again. And I wanted to let him in. The gallery felt alive today, but not with the usual hum of visitors. It was just the two of us, walking among the restored collections, checking that every frame, every sculpture, every delicate piece was exactly where it should be. After everything with Tobias and Anya, I had grown hyper-aware of even the smallest detail. And Rex was right there with me, his calm presence a steadying anchor. "You're tense," he said, breaking the silence as I adjusted a fragile porcelain vase. I sighed, letting my shoulders drop slightly. "I can't help it. Every time I think about what could have gone wrong," my voice trailed off. He stepped closer, his eyes soft, observant. "Serena, you've done more than survive. You've saved this foundation, preserved your family's legacy, and uncovered the truth. That's not just competence, that's courage." I looked at him, really looked at him, and something inside me stirred. His words weren't flattery, they were recognition, validation. Recognition that I had been starving for since the fire, the audits, and the betrayal. And as I met his gaze, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore, not of failing, not of trusting, not even of letting him in. "You make it sound so simple," I said, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. "It's not simple," he admitted, taking a careful step closer. "But sometimes, you just need someone who believes in you, even when you doubt yourself." My chest tightened. There was a warmth in his tone that went beyond mentorship or professional respect. It was personal, intimate, grounding. And I realized I wanted that closeness. We moved toward a quieter corner, near a display of early family artifacts. His hand brushed mine as he passed, and instead of recoiling, I let our fingers linger. A small spark, unspoken, passed between us. My heart raced, not from fear, but from the possibility of connection. I don't usually do this, I whispered, almost ashamed of how my voice trembled. Do what? He asked softly, his eyes locking onto mine, patient and steady. Let someone in, I admitted, my fingers tightening around his. Rex smiled, gentle, reassuring. Then let me, he said simply. I'll meet you halfway. And in that moment, all the walls I had built around my heart seemed to crumble just enough to let something tender, something daring, grow. A spark of hope, of desire, of trust, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of love. The foundation was quiet now, the chaos of audits, investigations, and betrayals finally behind us. I walked through the main gallery, my fingers brushing over the polished wood frames, the glass cases, everything restored, everything secure. And beside me, Rex's presence was steady, reassuring, a calm I had longed for but never allowed myself to fully feel. Looks like you've done it, he said, his voice soft, proud. Everything's safe. Everything's in order. I turned to him, feeling a surge of gratitude, and something else, something warmer that I could no longer ignore. We did it, I corrected, smiling. I couldn't have done this without you. He took my hand then, gently, deliberately. The contact sent a shiver up my spine, but it wasn't fear. It was anticipation, the thrill of being seen, truly seen, and accepted. Serena, he began, his voice catching just slightly, betraying the depth of feeling he usually kept so composed. I searched his eyes, seeing mirrored the trust and admiration I had grown to feel for him. Yes, I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I care about you, he admitted. Not just the foundation, not just the work. You. Something inside me melted. After all the deception, the betrayal, the near loss of everything I loved, here was someone who was pure, unwavering, someone I could trust with both my heart and my legacy. Before I could think, he closed the small distance between us. His hand cupped my face, and my fingers instinctively found the back of his neck. And then, finally, our lips met. Soft at first, testing, hesitant, and then deeper, more certain, as if all the tension, all the fear of the past, was being washed away in that one perfect moment. I wrapped my arms around him, feeling his warmth, the strength of his embrace, the sincerity in every heartbeat. I've wanted this for so long, I whispered against his lips. Me too, he replied, his voice muffled by the kiss, but full of truth. When we finally pulled back, just enough to breathe, our foreheads rested together, and I realized I was no longer afraid of love, of trust, of letting someone in. Rex's eyes held mine, unwavering, and in that look, I saw a future, a life built on honesty, integrity, and a love that had grown stronger through fire, betrayal, and survival. I smiled, feeling a spark of pure joy. So, we're really doing this? We are, he said, grinning. Together. And in that moment, with the foundation secure and my heart finally free, I knew I was truly reborn, not just as a curator, but as someone capable of love, trust, and a future I could believe in.